I am Brad Keelor. They are Bob and Lizan Gilbert. Next on Director's Cut, find out how they make it work, having an academic and a practitioner in the same household. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Director's Cut. My name is Brad Keelor. I'm the director of the Geo-Institute, and that is why we call this show Director's Cut. Every single week, until somebody stops me, I sit down with different GI members who have stories to tell us all about their lives. Some of them are personal, some of them are professional, all of them are fun. If you don't know anything about the Geo-Institute, as I like to say, it is time you became familiar. We are a technical society housed within the American Society of Civil Engineers. We have about 12,000 members, most of whom are geotechnical engineers and or geologists. So with that out of the way, it is a brand new year within GI, and as such, every year we have a brand new president. And I thought, what cooler way to introduce him to the masses than to do a director's cut. And then I thought, we have an even cooler situation here because we have two geotechnical engineers that are related to each other by marriage in this family. So we are joined this week by Bob from the University of Texas and Lizan from Atkinson on Director's Cut. Bob and Lizan, welcome.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you so much.
So you will see them duke it out over various questions. Sometimes they will answer by themselves. It's going to be a good time no matter what. We start by asking both of you to describe your jobs in 45 seconds.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, so I am a professor at the University of Texas in civil engineering, and I right now am the chair of the Department of Civil Architectural and Environmental Engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. And we have 1,100 undergraduate students and 400 graduate students and about 60 faculty and 20 staff who I'm responsible for.
And I am with Atkinson Construction. These days, my responsibility is on all of the upfront side. So finding a job, pursuing a job, winning a job, but probably most importantly, setting the job up really well so that once it goes into what we call delivery or actually into construction, that it's ready to go. If there are any significant major changes during construction, it comes back to me and my team, and we make sure that all of those things fit together so that, again, it's back to them and nice and smooth through the execution.
So in just a few minutes, we will find out a little bit more how these two use these unique jobs to their advantage when they come together as one. But first, we must ask some fun questions here. And the first one is, which one of you generally goes to bed first and which one gets up first in the morning?
Lizan.
That's the answer to both?
No.
Yeah,
So,
you go to bed first and you get up first.
I don't know. I'm a little bit of a piddler, I have to say. So I'm always like picking up the stuff in the kitchen or feeding the dog or checking on the kids or back up to check and make sure the laundry got stuck. So a lot of times, although I would really like to be in bed first, ideally 9:30, it never happens. Never, ever happens. So I'm generally piddling around, but I always get up first. I am by far, between us, more of a morning person than Bob is, and would love to see sunrise and a coffee or a cup of tea in my hand every single day.
So what time is that then? When is your first alarm set?
Oh, I don't even have to set an alarm. So I just get up. Whatever time I need to get up, I get up. So if I need to wake up at 6 tomorrow, I'll wake up at 5:50. If I need to wake up at 5 o'clock, I'll wake up at 4:50. Somehow or another, it just works in there that I wake up.
That's pretty impressive. Bob, are you alarm dependent?
Oh, I'm very alarm dependent, and I am a snooze button person. So I could probably, if there were no constraints, go all day just pressing the snooze button and sleeping for 10 minutes at a time. But in my defense, I started as a paper boy when I was 6 years old, and for 12 years I did a paper route in my neighborhood, and every morning I had to get up early and do the paper. So I figure I paid my price, and now I get to sleep in.
I set 4 alarms every day, and one of them is across the room so that I have to get up to turn it off, because otherwise I'll just blissfully keep on snoozing. It's not really great. So the question that we teased a little bit in the open and then a moment ago, with one academic and one practitioner in the household, how do you each feel your partner gives you a different perspective on the geo profession?
This one is easy for me because I am constantly going to Lizan with questions about the real world and using examples she runs into in her job to teach, to help with consulting, to help with students and guiding students. And it's just, I'm fascinated by all the fun things she gets to do, and I'm constantly using that in what I do.
And I would say that all of the discussion, so yes, we talk about work a lot, but not in like a boring, well, if you're not an engineer, maybe it's boring, but to me, it's not boring. And it's really interesting for me to hear the discussions and what it is that he's having to work on, the challenges that, if it went in wrong or if it's not performing like it should, where does it actually start? Where was the problem that we could have found either in designing something through an alternative delivery process, or when we're building it, like how can we do that better? Plus, it also introduces me to all of the students and all of the perspectives that they have. I get tons of opportunities to talk with them and hear where their minds are thinking, which then I take back to my team and help to incorporate and make sure that we're a great place to work for this upcoming generation.
Or maybe do a little recruiting and
Perhaps,
stuff like that.
Yeah. Talk a little tunnel here and there.
The one thing that's common though is almost always it has to do with people. So it's, and Lizan is really, really good at helping navigate how to best manage people. So lots of my questions, while there's a technical aspect, are just like, how do I deal with this? What am I going to do with this student or this faculty member or the staff situation? So, and she is, that constantly running into that on her side of the job. So
this is very impressive to me because my wife and I always discuss how we would probably kill each other if we had similar jobs because our personalities are so divergent. We can't imagine possibly doing the same thing and facing the same challenges. So I had to make sure I asked that question. But I also have to make sure I ask some of the fun off the wall ones that everybody loves and knows director's cut for. And so we come up with ones like this. What are your favorite and least favorite fonts?
Okay, I already know this. And in fact, when I got the list of questions, fell asleep thinking about which was my favorite font.
Why she goes to bed early.
And it's Arial Narrow. I love that font. It is the perfect font for all tables, all charts. The way that the letters are formed and shaped, they're scooted together, just so not Arial. It has to be Arial Narrow, and it's perfect in all of those things. But I also read that when you read, you don't want to read that hard line, so it does better in Times New Roman. So I write in Times New Roman, and then I put tables and different critical things in Arial Narrow.
So you had a very strong opinion about that. Do you get any pushback from anybody in the office or at home over that?
No, and I change everybody else's to Arial Narrow.
I mean, if you're sure it's superior, why not, right? So Bob, what's your take on this?
Well, I like really clean fonts. To me, it's about the word and not the letters. So I like Calibra or Arial, something that's really clean. And I dislike really flowery. I don't know what that word is, but fonts that have lots of flowerness to them.
So you're not one of those people who has a signature file that's in one of the cursive fonts that Office offers. Those are not my fave. And no Comic Sans from either one of you. I know when Steve Chu became Secretary of Energy several years ago, he got destroyed for using Comic Sans in a presentation to the White House. And that was probably the right move by the people who destroyed him for that. So next question here is so we already mentioned students. When either one of you interacts with students or young engineers, what's your go-to piece of advice for them that you find yourself giving over and over and over again?
Yeah, for me, it's about who you work with. So a lot of times students will ask me, should I go to work for this firm or for that type of company? And my answer is always, it doesn't really matter what the firm is or what the company is. It's who are you going to be working with? If the people that you're going to be working with are fun and excited about what they're doing and bright and doing fun things and interesting things, you're going to like it. And if they're not, I don't care how great the company is or the type of work is, I don't think you're going to enjoy it. So I always look at the people that you're going to be working with and just tell them to really think about that when they're going on interviews and thinking about which opportunity to pursue. Who are the people you're going to be doing it with?
Yeah, which I always think is great advice. And I think that the advice that I have complements that. And the first piece of advice that I always tell students is, they want to know if this is going to be the perfect job or the perfect next job for the rest of their career. And I try and remind them, it doesn't matter. It's just the next job. It's just your first job. And you're going to have lots of different things that you're going to do. And there's no way to plan. You can try and put a plan together, but pretty quickly something's going to change and you're going to shift. So just make sure it fits where you are right now. And then the second sort of corollary to that is that whatever job or step you take, make sure it opens up opportunity so that you have more things to think about in the future. If it takes you in a direction that is going to limit what you could do after that, then maybe you have to think about whether that's really the step you want to take.
So we haven't done any bonus questions yet, and here's your first. For both of you, do you think the advice that you give is what you would have wanted to receive when you were younger, or is there some other piece of advice that you feel like you didn't get that you wish you would have had?
I'm sure it's what I would have liked to have received because it's guided me well. I think I've always looked at who I was going to be working with, and I figured if that was something that I was excited about, they must be doing really interesting work, because why else would they be there doing that if they weren't?
Yeah, I would say that being able to just appreciate the next job would have been really helpful for me. People ask all the time if I ever expected to be a contractor, and my hands down answer is no, never. I was sure I was going to be this super technical, finite element, whatever guru. And of course, I don't do any of that stuff at all, but I love what I do. And if I had at each step just realized it's okay, you're taking the step because you want it to be fun, and it's going to be fun. So go ahead and do it. You can figure out the rest later. It would have been a lot less stressful and anxiety provoking at each of those steps.
And I think both of those are really good pieces of advice. I think about when I was in my 20s and all the planning I did, and I don't really understand why. I look back and I'm like, it's kind of pointless. Like a lot of the things I wanted to do then, I wasn't interested in that much longer, honestly. And if I had done those things, I think I would have felt maybe trapped in something I didn't want to do eventually. So that was very good. I applaud both of you for that on behalf of all the students and young engineers. So the other question that we ask everybody when they come on Director's Cut is, how did you first get involved in ASCE and GI? And the end of this story for Bob, I think, has to end with you being the Geo-Institute President this year.
It can end that way, yeah. Thanks for reminding me of that, Brad. I met Lizan at an ASCE meeting. So that's how important ASCE is to me.
That's the second week out of 3, 2 out of 3 of the last shows. We've had that answer. which is very good.
That is great. Yeah, I got involved in ASCE way, I won't say how many years ago, but back when I was an undergrad. And, I just needed a group of people who, number one, were studying all the time. Number two, were studying together. And number three, would go out really late to have a drink or a social or a something. So ASCE was my ticket to that. Plus, Concrete Canoe was off the wall, and we went to nationals again many years ago. And I just had the greatest time with the organization. And, from that, I've stayed involved throughout my career. It's still a great organization. It's still good for all of those things, although luckily we don't have to study, but we do have to collaborate. And it's great. It's really great for those things.
I think one time I want somebody to say that they wanted to meet people who would get math jokes or something like that. There are not enough math jokes on Director's Cut. Bob, I think the follow-up here has to be, we need you to talk a little bit about the beginning of the Geo-Institute and how you were involved in that, because you were there at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been around a long time. Thanks, Brad. I got involved with the technical division, the geotechnical division of ASCE when I first became a faculty member. That was kind of a very academic-centric organization. And I was immediately, Rudy Bonaparte asked me to be the chair of what we called the ASCE conference organizer. So every year ASCE would have their annual meeting and they would have technical content, and I was responsible for the geotechnical division's technical content at that conference, which would include the Terzaghi lectures. So we always were active in participating in that conference because it would help set up the Terzaghi lecture. And that, I guess, rolled into me just getting more and more involved with the National Geotechnical Division, which then turned into the Geo-Institute. And I helped in forming the Geo-Institute. The Technical Coordinating Council was what we came up with to help guide the technical part of the Geo-Institute. Bob Holtz and I and Priscilla Nelson. I'm trying to remember who all was a part of that, but we were a part of a task group to figure that out. So I've been a part of the Geo-Institute for 25 years now, right, Brad? Is it 26 years or still 25?
We're still doing the 25th anniversary celebration until the end of this year. So, yeah, of course, you can go make your special 25th anniversary contribution to the Student Participation Fund at geoinstitute.org. And there are a lot of other ways to get involved, too. So we had one question that's just for Lizan and one for Bob. This is the Lizan question. And so it's an easy one. What aspect of your job do you wish was a bigger piece of your job pie? It can be anything, whether it's design, whether it's construction, whether literally anything. What do you wish occupied more of your time?
So I will say that is a really hard question for me. And I say that because, honestly, I feel like this is the perfect job for me. It allows me to continue to do all of my design stuff, which I love design, even though I'm a contractor these days. I really love design and I love the problem solving, but we do alternative delivery. So I get to lead design teams and get to discuss the parameters they've chosen and why they were right or why I think that they should be changed. So I get to dive into that. I get to go and actually implement, and some of my best engineering successes have been on the contracting side because I've had to think through right then, how could we do what we were going to do in 15 minutes and then go watch it get done. So how much better does it get than that? I can sit on a piece of equipment if I'm properly trained and wearing all my PPE, but I can sit on a piece of equipment and operate it, or I can go back into the office and really, work with the people and build teams. So, when I think about the things that if I had to want to do something more, it really would be working with our brand newest engineers. I don't get quite as much of an opportunity to do that. And so getting to see some of the students that I might have recruited come into the company and really integrate themselves, that I don't just have as much time for these days, but I really do try and make sure that I talk to them and get to see them when I can.
Got to keep that energy up too. I think that's always a great way to do it. Talk to the most, well, usually the most ambitious people in the office. So Bob, the question for just you. Now we mentioned all the things, or a lot of the things that you've been involved in over the years. One of the latest for you is the ISFOG conference. It's going to be in Austin, in your hometown, next August. It is the International Symposium on Frontiers of Offshore Geotechnics. So for everybody that's sitting there saying, wow, now why should I go? Tell them, why should they go? Why should they be part of ISFOG?
Yeah, so it's ISFOG 2020 happening in August of 2022 because of our pandemic. So why should they go? Because I think the future of a lot of what we do is going to be offshore and coastal. The populations are all moving to the coast. The energy that we're developing, renewable energy, is primarily going to come from offshore sources. The water, I think we're going to see more and more of doing interesting things like getting hydrogen out of water offshore using energy from wind turbines, and then taking that hydrogen and using that hydrogen in our conventional oil and gas infrastructure. So there's all sorts of cool things happening offshore, and it's always been a really really big source of innovation, because we are going way out beyond anything we've ever done before, going into significant water depths, like 2 miles of water, and designing for waves that are 125 feet high, and just all sorts of crazy innovation to be able to do that. So it's an exciting area.
So I think the follow-up question to that is, what makes it different than any other ASCE or GI conference? What is going to be unique there that people can expect?
Yeah, well, it's very international and it's very practical. So it's just as much about the people that build and the people that design these facilities as it is about research and the academic side of offshore geotechnics. And I think it's a great community in that a lot of what we do is just as applicable onshore as it is offshore. So there's a lot of lessons that you can learn, and there are a lot of us who do both, and being able to bridge that, I think, would be really valuable to people.
And of course, we will not miss an opportunity. There will be a link to the ISFOG website down in the description here in the show notes after this gets posted next week. So we have 2 questions left, and they're both pretty fun ones. And we're going to start out with this one. What teacher made the biggest difference in each of your lives?
Yeah, I had a high school English teacher who inspired me to be a teacher, and inspired me so much that when I went to college, I actually was going to major in English. And my counselor and my advisor at the University of Illinois said, you know what, it's a lot easier to transfer from engineering into English, but you could get into engineering right now, and it's pretty hard to transfer from English into engineering. So how about you go into engineering and take English classes? And I did. And that first semester, I dropped 2 of the English classes I had. I never had to read so many books and so much Shakespeare and write so much. I got burned out on English within a couple of weeks, and the rest is history.
So you don't have any regrets about it? You don't wish you were teaching English at some liberal arts school in Vermont right now?
No, but I would say a lot of being a teacher and a lot of what I do is write and communicate. And so I still love, when I retire, I want to go be Ernest Hemingway. But for right now, I still get to do lots of activities that are like being an English major. They aren't called being an English major.
That's good. Lizan, what about you?
So my most influential teacher was my 7th and 8th grade math teacher. I went to a private Catholic school through 8th grade, and he was entirely different from every other teacher we had. We had no idea that we were learning algebra and geometry and things, because we were just learning math with Brother Joseph. And he actually enters my mind, and I really think about him far more regularly than you might from any other teacher. But the way he taught really allowed us, all of us, to believe that we were good at math. And I'm hoping that I'm right, because it seems to have panned out. But he changed my way of thinking about math, and that it could be fun, and that it wasn't this teacher grading you and keeping the answer secret, and it was this puzzle that only the smart kids could solve. He had the answer key open on his desk, and we would work problems together on the board. It was more like a college discussion than I would have ever expected at a 7th or 8th grade level. And from there, that's the same for me. The rest is history.
That's always exciting too, I think, when the teacher treats you a little bit more like an adult than you think you're going to get. They're not lording over you with something. So this can be a bonus question then for both of you too. We'll start with Lizan on this one. If you had to choose something else and start again, like at the bachelor's level, you had to go back to college for something else other than what you do, what would you choose?
Linguistics. And it's something like, I just love languages. And maybe it's the communication side of things, but when you hear somebody speaking another language and the energy associated, they're using their hands or, whatever, to be a part of that conversation, I just think would be phenomenal. I would love to speak 10 languages and participate in all of those discussions, the technical ones, the social ones. So linguistics, hands down. I don't know if I'd be any good at it, but I would love to do it.
Bob, would yours be English or something else?
No, in looking back, architecture. I love creating, and again, there's English. I mean, that's writing is creating, and in what I do, I'm always interested in understanding how did we come up with this design and this shape and this form, and why did we do that, and is that really the best? And so I think I would want to focus on architecture if I could go back in time.
That is fantastic. That's a question I haven't asked anybody yet, so I thought let's give it a shot, because you two have diverse interests. So our final question, we have to ask you a question about Austin. People see Austin from the outside. They see the little Keep Austin Weird t-shirts. They might know that IBM is there or was there at some point or something like that. That's all they know. So for both of you, what's your best only in Austin story?
So I have to say that only in Austin does the weather change like that. Now, maybe that's a Texas thing as well, but Austin is funny because we're right on the edge of the hill country. So that the weatherman has no idea when he says it's going to be 95 for a high, partly cloudy, 70 is a low for the next 10 days. All you know is that he has no idea what's going to happen, because it could be a hurricane that could come. It could be a tornado that could come through. It could be 110, or some cold front could come in. And if a cold front does come in, like the one that hit us back in March of this year, you can bet that only in Austin are you going to find people skiing down the roads, doing ski jumping at their local golf course, and eating the snow off of their yard in order to get water, because everything shuts down and we have no idea how to deal with it. Our infrastructure had some challenges, obviously, but it's only in Austin are you going to respond to the weather like that.
Yeah. So I have to say music. Austin is just full of music. And I've learned to like all sorts of different types of music now, because I just love seeing people do something that they're really passionate about and do it well. And you can find that on every night in every location around Austin. And right now with the ACL Music Festival being here, it was last weekend and this coming weekend. We have tickets this weekend. Remember, Lizan? Mm-hmm. We're filled with musicians that are playing at ACL, but they're playing in all the local venues during the week when ACL isn't going on. And so it's just a fantastic place to be. If you like people who are really talented and really passionate about what they do, Austin is the place to be.
So 2 bonus questions on that one. The first one is South by Southwest. Do you love or hate it? Do you wish it was somewhere else?
I don't wish it was somewhere else. I actually love the South by Southwest scene. Now, we don't generally participate a lot in South by Southwest just because it is a little bit crowded and trying to find the right spot. If you do find a good spot, then everybody has also found that spot. So there's 500 of you trying to find that good spot. But I love the people who come in and the variety of people. I mean, so you can be sitting at your local taco joint, because everybody does eat tacos here. So you can be sitting at your local taco joint and have one of the best musicians from around the world sitting next to you and, you know, get a conversation going about what they're doing. It's a great, great scene where the diversity is fabulous and it brings an energy to the city that does not exist outside of those times.
Yeah. You remember, Lizan, we were on the plane. You'll meet all sorts of really interesting people that are attracted to Austin because of South by Southwest. But we met this band. They were from Denmark or Germany, coming in and just talking to them and what they were excited about and what kind of music they played was just fascinating. So yeah, I think it's great we have South by Southwest, even though we don't personally go.
And then the final one for both of you, what's the best show, the best concert you've been to in Austin?
Ooh, okay, so I might have to, back in college, I did get to see Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he was phenomenal. He was all that everybody says, and it was very old Austin, so a very small venue, and I was like 25 feet from him, and his energy and his band. You know, it's funny because actually at the time I wasn't a huge fan of that kind of music, and seeing him totally changed it. You know, I love it. But my second, and maybe more as an adult, is a David Byrne concert that we saw out at actually a venue that's not there anymore. But again, just phenomenal. David Byrne and his band, and just great. I mean, again, only in Austin do you find the opening band was great. He was great. The audience was great. You know, the back and forth was great. It was fabulous.
Yeah, stole that from me. I was going to say David Byrne. And he had, the cool thing is he had a group from Austin, a symphony group that played with him. And it went so well, he ended up taking a subset of them on tour with him around the country. Yeah, he was fantastic. We got
very
to see
cool.
Gray before David Gray was big.
Those are great answers. So I got to ask the one about David Byrne. Was this when he was working with Brian Eno a lot, and I think they put out an album together. This was maybe 2012, 2013. I'm trying to remember.
It was earlier than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was Look Into the Eyeball was the album that had just come out, which is maybe 2002 or 3, maybe. I don't remember. Maybe even earlier than that.
That's good. Those are good only in Austin experiences too. I feel like most of the rest of us don't get to have experiences like that. So you guys survived all 10 questions and the bonuses I threw at you very admirably. Nice job. We thank you both for being on Director's Cut today. If you enjoyed what you saw today, our viewers out there, and I think you probably did because you're still here at the end, click that subscribe button, click get notifications. We will let you know every single time we post a new video to the YouTube channel, which is super frequently of late. So Bob and Lizan, thank you for doing this today.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brad. This was great.
I love doing these conversations every week. They're a blast.
Really lucky to have you as our director. So we really are thankful to have you and excited to have you, and you're doing great things for our organization.
Thank you, and I got to turn it around and tell you guys that we're lucky to have you both too. Very active volunteers, and we always make a pitch for people to get more involved when they see these active volunteers. There are tons of ways to get involved. Contact us, go over to geo-institute.org, and we will show you the way. So thanks again, guys. Great answers this week. And to everybody else, we will see you next week.